Hello, hello everyone. How is it going? So good to see you here again, another week. Welcome to Godot Tomorrow. I am Emilio. We're gonna go over some of the latest news in the Godot engine world and answer as many questions as I can at the end. So if you have any questions, save them up. Yeah, let's get into it. But first, like, is everything okay? Is the audio okay and all that? I've been making some changes here on my setup. I don't want to do the entire stream with something wrong. All right. Okay. So let's go. Dive into Godot 4.6. Yes, we're gonna see today. I think we're gonna go over the latest changes in the 4.6 build. Then we're gonna see a little bit more of other news that we sent on the newsletter, and then go to the Q&A. All right, let's go. First of all, you might notice if you visited our site, there is one small thing very easy to miss at the top, which is a banner for asking for donations. We usually don't ask this boldly, like we do ask when you download, maybe on a blog post and all that. But we wanted to have at least this month a reminder for people that, you know, we achieved a lot of things over the year. I started preparing like some talks that I need to be giving throughout the year. So I reuse a little bit of content here and then. And since the first talk I gave this year about Godot until the one that I'm going to give next week, a lot of things changed. A lot of progress has been made in the engine, and it's going very fast. But still, we always feel like we're not quite as fast as we would like. We always have the community asking for many things. We have game developers asking for many things. So if we were able to get more donations, we would be able to hire more people to work on the engine and, you know, hopefully go faster. As I said many times on past streams, there's just many areas that at the moment don't have any full-time maintainer. So it would be ideal if we were able to get more funds and, you know, get a maintainer in every area. I see. Okay, fingers crossed trades come to 4.7. We need to talk about trades because, yeah, like I think it's already been out, kind of like it's not coming in 4.6. But yeah, there's still a lot of discussion to have. Anyway, just wanted to remind you, if you have the funds, if you've been using Godot, you like it, you want to support us, you can donate and help us make Godot better and faster. So far we have 1,619 people donating every month, and then we had a bunch of donations on like one-time donations. In this case, we're getting very close to like 350,000, which I think would be a nice number to close the year, but we'll see if we get there. And in euros per month, that would be 30,000. I think that would be like a nice goal for end of the year. We actually always we have a little bit of drama in January, and I'm preparing you for it because this number that we show here is how much money we get during a year in one-time donations. So this will go to 0 in January, okay? That doesn't mean that the money disappears, just that, it will be going back to 0, and then we count how much donations we got per year. This is change that came this year, and I think it's been working really well in actually showing the amount of money that we get on a one-time basis versus the one that we get recurrently. So yeah, don't panic if you see this going back to 0. That's how it's meant to be. If you want to know more about this, we have here a post explaining a little bit how we make these calculations. And by the end of the year, we usually try to get also like a report with the finances and everything. But I know your guys are not here for the donation stuff. You're here for the 4.6 Dev5 build. I do see some questions in there, but save them for the end. Like once we finish covering all this, we can go full question mode. Okay, so we had this first snapshot on the 1st of December, and it's actually a massive one. I saw some people commenting on the Dev4, like maybe it's a little bit light. I thought it was okay, but this one seems very, very big. So let's see. The game that we're featuring here is Kingdom of the Dump, which some of you might have known. And this game has been made using Godot 2.1. So there's no excuses. Like if people can make these sort of amazing games with Godot 2, you can do the same or even more with Godot 4. So yeah, if you haven't tried it out, give it a try. It's been making a lot of news lately. People really like it, and yeah, it's a game that had a very successful Kickstarter at the time, and now just came out after many years of development. Actually, this is maybe like a bit of a side quest, but Remy, you might know him as Aikian, also remade some of the things, so you can actually compile Godot 2.1 if you want to give it a go. So, you can always also download it on our website if you really want to see. This post from 2016 was when 2.1 was released, which is a long time. And it's funny to go and see how things were back then. We had the different Godot logo with the very big jaw. And the UI, it's looking very, very fancy. The inspector, you can see like many elements looking a bit different. Look, fully internationalized editor UI. Yeah, it's fun to go and visit these old releases, and if you actually give it a try and try the editor, it's interesting to see how many things made it throughout the years to make such a better experience of using it. I have to say, I kind of miss this sort of like era of shadows in the UI, but the tabs look very, very, very nice. But yeah, no, it's very interesting to go. Look, we have drag and drop support, guys. This is new for the for the nodes. So yeah, you see it here first. Anyway, a lot of things have happened since then. But Sorry, I'm still delaying. You guys want to see the latest changes. So for 4.6 Dev 5, we are very close to the freeze. That means that we are trying not to add anything else that's going to be very challenging. So you can maybe expect the next release to be the first beta. If there's some reason why there needs to be another build, there will be another one. But so far, like, we want to keep the release cycle shorter because 4.5 was quite longer than we anticipated. So yeah. One of the biggest changes that I already mentioned here, and I think Clay also mentioned on the Q&A that we did a couple of weeks ago, is the D3D12 by default on Windows. So this is something that was contributed back in the day by Random Shaper, which was sponsored by W4 Games, and after some refinement, and now that we have a person working on rendering at the foundation, we decided that this was the best solution for Windows games. And it's a bit unfortunate because Pulkan was supposed to be, that thing that actually ran well everywhere. But we've been having many reports of driver issues that it's really hard for us to resolve. So I think this is gonna maybe at the beginning be a bit a rocky start in D3D12 because it hasn't been tested as well as the Vulkan one, but on the long term I think it's gonna be a much better solution, more stable for players. It really sucks that once any driver comes out and breaks a million games, that's just not ideal. So now that we actually can do this sort of thing, I think it's a great moment to do it. But we covered this a little bit before. The other one, which is add support for delta encoding to pack PCKs. Basically, if I understood this correctly, is an improvement to actually send patches and only shipping the stuff that changed, not everything. So instead of having to replace the entire PCK for the new patch, you just add a very small one, and that should be better, especially downloading updates on every game every time you launch a platform like Steam is not ideal. But yeah, I think this is quite cool, and yeah, that's what I understood. It is something like here. This feature must be explicitly enabled under the patching tab in the export dialog because it comes with a slight runtime overhead when patches are applied. So yeah, don't expect this to be working out of the box. When is the Q&A part? When I finish yapping about the updates, usually it's around the half-hour mark, so like in 15 minutes, should be there. But yeah. Dedicated build app for Gradle builds on Android. So I'm not super into Android, so I don't know what any of this means, but it seems like it's something that people wanted, and let's read the notes. Godot supports two ways to export to Android: injecting the game data into the pre-built APK, or by running the Gradle build system, which is how native Android apps are built. Modifying the pre-built APK is faster and requires less setup, but it's more limited. If you want to use different plugins, you need to use Gradle. While the Godot editor itself runs on Android, allowing you to develop games on your phone or tablet, has only ever supported exporting via the pre-built APK. So that means that if you were making games on Android, which is something you can, you couldn't use any external plugins and stuff like that, which it's good for all those kind of users, which we didn't know we had many, but every time we ask, there are many. So it's quite cool. And yeah, if you're using Android, yeah, I see people happy on the chat. I should look more into getting someone maybe for a Q&A, especially for Android. It's an entire world of tools that I just don't know. Similar to that, the OpenXR. Godot now supports OpenXR 1.1. It will automatically enable OpenXR 1.1. Features on devices that support this. So I guess we have more information on the PR about which are those. But it's not loading. GitHub, okay. Here, I really don't see any list, but I guess the latest. This comes with a compatibility layer to make this as transparent as possible for developers who want to develop their games both to headsets that support OpenXR 1.1 and those that only support OpenXR 1.0, which is something that we always try to do. Same with the D3D12 change. It's not by default, by the way, on your current projects that exist. It will only be in new projects, like this here says. But also, if it fails, it should go back to whatever is available. So it should use Vulkan as a backup. And this OpenXR is doing the same. Like it will try to use the 1.1 this time by default, and then if not, use 1.0. But yeah, then would be nice to get another Q&A. Like just let me know. Let me know on the comments if you want somebody else. Maybe we can get Bastian here and talk more about XR. I do have a very old headset. I don't use it that much, and it seems like it's time to just try it out again. But yeah, this one I've seen many people happy about. Massive optimizations to the 2D renderer. In Godot 4.4, we introduced automatic 2D batching, which is an optimization that saves huge amount of CPU resources by drawing similar objects in a single draw call. 2D batching results in huge wins for content that can easily be batched, like text-heavy games or bullet hells. So if you're showing like 1,000,000 bullets in the screen, this is very handy. And I believe like this change just made everything go faster. And we have here from 1.1x to 7 times as fast. So, pretty good if you're a 2D game developer, which we do see a lot of improvements on 3D all the time. That's what people want like to scream about. But, it's nice to get also 2D getting some love. And then a lot more, which this one should have been like a bigger thing. Add support for rotating scene tiles in tilemap layer. That people do want to rotate things. I don't know if this is how it ended up looking at the end, but this was at least the PR, which is quite handy, especially not having to deal with this in code. It's really useful. And a lot more. Add option to point constraint 3D, changing animation libraries, serialization to avoid using dictionaries, and yeah, a lot of changes. That's why like this dev build is charged with, like, it's packed with new things. As always, I will not go over all of this. If you want me to, we can do it. Like I'm trying different things, so let me know if you want me to read all the posts and go over all the changes, or if you're okay with the small snippets I do and you just go and check the rest. If you're interested in checking the rest, there's the interactive change log that includes all the changes that happen, and every time we do a post, we don't always feature everything, so I will leave a link here for you if you want to. But yeah, it's just a lot of changes so far. I'm really looking forward to 4.6. So yeah, let's go now to, sorry for the flashback. Let's see if we can, let me see. I should do this filter invert 1. Okay, that's better. Sorry for the flashbang. We have a newsletter that we send every month. By the end of the month, you should get it. So there's only one left this year. I'm gonna leave the link here. and we do kind of like a compilation of what things have been released, some games that have been released, and some curious things that we find around the web and the community is building using Godot. In this case, in the first section we always cover the new kind of like releases that we do. So all the foundation news is what you see in the blog. I covered this in the previous Godot tomorrow stream, and also the dev builds. This came out before the last one, so it's just not included here. And on community showcase and tutorials, we highlight sometimes projects that people are doing. And there's a very small indie company called Valve who released new hardware, and in the showcase that they have here on their website, they have here on this, showing you that you can use it as a computer. You can see here that my head is in there in the middle, so it's using in the video Godot and Blender. So it was kind of nice to see Godot in this showcase. Then there's this beautiful blog post by Joseph Humphrey, which is the co-founder of Inkle. You might know Inkle for many narrative games and narrative systems like game dialogue systems, and they're building a game now in Godot, so that's pretty exciting. So Joseph here shared his experience with Godot, which I think was a very nice read in terms of seeing what things they like and they don't like. But yeah, it's good to see also that even if they are running 4.5, the theme that they're using seems to be a premonition of the theme to come. So yeah, and the Godot Files talks that I already covered. Yes, I'm gonna leave link there. I left a link to the newsletter, so you should be able to get all the links that I'm showing here as well. And you can subscribe to the newsletter and get them in your inbox. Then for releases, Kingdom of the Damned we already covered. Goober Dash, which was released on Steam, but this game was already available on web, which it's a quite popular game by Winter Pixel. Winter Pixel has been doing games in Godot for a long time. I believe this is Godot 3. I'm not sure if they moved to Godot 4, but popular game. Repel the Rifts, which is a tower defense roguelite, kind of like it looks very similar to another game. Maybe it's very inspired by Into the Breach. That's at least how it looks, but it seems to be more like real-time based instead of turn-based. But I haven't played it yet, but has quite a few positive reviews. Then we have War Rats, which has very interesting art and has a lot of reviews as well, kind of like a side scroller shoot 'em up. Really interesting theme. So yeah. Then for False Tools, we always try to show things that are interesting, but they don't necessarily need to be about games. In this case, they are all about making games. And there was one that really caught my attention, which is the Twins Interactive Guide. And you probably, if you've been around in social media, you've seen this one making the rounds, which is like a good demonstration to show how how animations look like. It's really cool. I really encourage you to try it out. You probably have seen it already, but just in case, I will leave a link in the description. Then we have Terrain 3D, which is the very popular 3D editor. Energy Shield, which is one of the assets that has been published on the asset store that we have, which is quite cool. If you haven't tried it already, you should try the Godot asset store. It's gonna be coming out of beta soon, and here you have many plugins like that. And the Godot Xterm, a terminal emulator, a GD extension that you can use for your projects, which also looks very cool. Looks like a very old CRT screen, like the one I have there, but it's more exaggerated, of course. Upcoming jams, those are jams that if you want to, you can participate. About visual novels, another one is about making a game that has like high score, and a first-person shooter jam, which is quite popular, the 7-day FPS. And yeah, that's more or less the newsletter. Remember, you can subscribe on the website. I'm gonna leave a link so you will get it every month. And yeah, that's it for the stuff that we had here. And yeah, we're almost at the time I predicted. There was one question on the forum that I wanted to address, and also a sign of maybe we can do a new section or something. The question is by Alexander, and saying, "Hello, I saw your stream. Congratulations on 102K subscribers. So 34 days ago, I published my game on itch.io. It's called Road of the Infected. It's almost like Flash game made on Godot. So maybe next stream you try my game. I want to hear your opinion on my project. I did my best to make a game. Your support will give me more spirits to make new and better games." So I decided I will not be trying the game on this stream, but if you are interested, maybe we can do a stream where we try games and we play people's submissions. I don't know exactly if this is what people want to see, because the quality might vary, and I'm here more to talk about the game engine side of things, not so much about the games. But it would be nice, if you want to, you can submit your games, and we can play them. And if you have any multiplayer game, that can also be fun to try. But yeah, that's all the questions I had here on the forum. So let's go now to the chat that I've seen. It's going quite fast, and I don't want to miss anything. Let's see. We have first question already. When will 4.6 be released? When it's ready. I guess it will be in January, hopefully. I don't know. It's hard to tell, especially because a lot of things can happen. But once you get to beta, we do have maybe months, 2 months until there. So maybe January, February, but not later than that. I'm not sure exactly, like, if it makes sense to be eager to get the latest release, unless you're just trying it out. You can already download the snapshots on our website and try it, but if you're working on a more long-term project, you should stay on 4.5 until it's released, and then consider if it's worth it or not to upgrade. We do our best to make the upgrades as easy as possible, but you shouldn't be kind of waiting for when is the latest build gonna release, unless you're waiting for some specific feature. But yeah, see, cool idea, I guess, about like the kind of stream. Question: can we crowdfund specific features to get them prioritized? Yes, that's something that's coming. Which it's let me. So on our website, we now have this drop down here to make it more visible. Thank you to Kalinu to making that PR, but it was something that we mentioned here. The idea is to make the priority list something that people who are donating recurrently, something that they can vote on. So if you are donating, like every month, you want to say, hey, I want, my priority would be let's see, GDScript refactoring tools. And then, you vote on that, and you get like a public display of interest. And then you will be able to see which are the most voted options. That will be a good indicator for us to know which kind of things we really need to prioritize to deliver them to people who are donating. But yeah, that's a system that needs to be developed. everybody pretty much is on board with the idea and wants to do it, but needs to be developed. And then ideally, once you are donating, like you will be able to just log in with your account, and same way as you were able to vote for the showreel entries, you will be able to vote for these sort of things. So yeah, I hope that answers the question. Question: can you explain the bottom panel pop-up? When you hit the three dots, a little dog position pop-up appears, but I'm not sure what the rules are for how it works, or if it's even finished. So yes, I don't know if I have Godot set up here to put on the stream. Let's see. Let's see if I can open it and show it to you. But actually, on that note, the editor is actually going to be modified. So maybe you are confused because some panels from the bottom you cannot move in the other positions. Some of them you can, like the file system you can, but in the future you will be able to move those to different positions. So I don't know if it's that exactly what you're referring to. But yeah, let's see. How can I select Godot here? I should have this here. Okay. Now the size of the screen to be maybe so you can see everything. Guess you mean these three dots, right? So you can get the dog position. This is basically for moving any of these elements. So if you want to have the scene on this side, you can move it there, and then the scene is on this side. So that's basically how it works at the moment. But in the future, you will be able to also do the same with these nodes and move them there. You can move, for instance, the file system. You can put it here on the bottom. But for doing this, you basically need to adapt the node, like the panel, to be adaptable. And not all of them can be adaptable. And even if you want to get the scene here, you would be wasting a lot of space in the screen. And some other docs, like the animation doc, it needs a lot of horizontal space. So if you were to put this on a side doc, it would be very weird. So improvements are coming to this. Coppola has been working on many of these. So you will be able to move things around, but that doesn't mean that it's a good idea. A lot of people want us to do basically that you can drag and drop stuff like this, but into any position, but that usually it's not. It doesn't make a lot of sense if it's not already prepared for doing that. In this case, you can do a lot of it already, but not everything. I hope you I hope I resolved that question. Let's see. Make a new stream. Got out yesterday for games. Yeah, that would be cool. But yeah, regarding the streams, I think this might be the last stream of the year. I'm gonna try to do it next week and other weeks, but I'm gonna go to a conference next week, and then there's kind of like the holiday break, which hopefully we all have time to be with our families for once in a while, and then we should be back maybe by the end of the year. So I don't want to promise much, but this might be the last stream of the year. On January, I should be going back to normal. But if I can squeeze it in, I will do it. So you can always check if there's a stream scheduled or not. Let's see. Any improvements on Android performance? Yes, there's always, I think, improvements on Android, especially like there's been a lot of movements lately on improving many things. On the renderer, on the editor side of things, on everywhere. It was supposed to be, one of the highlights of 4.6, but there are some details that we might need to cook for a little bit longer. But we do have one person now working on Android for the foundation. The priorities are not exactly making it run faster or improvements per se, but it's more like making the ecosystem of Android to be as good as it can be. We've seen on the latest build today, one of the things. But yeah, it's always a priority, but it's very subjective. Like, what would be the improvement you're expecting in particular to see? Is there any area in particular? You can let me know maybe. What is the best changes in Dev 5? So again, I think if you're making a 2D game, the 2D batching upgrade was, one of the best changes. If you're making a 3D game, not so much. So it really depends. In general, I would say the D3D12 is going to be the most impactful if it goes well, because having an actually, like, imagine, like, for us having many games released on Steam, not directly by us, but game developers publish Godot games on Steam. Every time there's some issue there, they have millions of players that are kind of having that issue as well. So you are not expecting a game engine to do that to you. So I think if the D3D12 goes well and we never see any of those driver issues again, that would be the best change. But we are yet to see. Non-important question. Every question is important. Have you think about creating a kind of little game studio like Blender Studio to create open projects in order to improve the engine in real productions? So that's a question that comes up quite regularly, and that's something that it's very easy to think about once you see, something like Blender Studio is for Blender. But in our case, we don't have the funds to do that. And, you could argue that we already have contractors, people working on the Godot engine, they could be making games. But the people you need to hire to make a game are not the same kind of people that you need to hire to make an engine. So if you want to make a game, you need artists, you need musicians, you need many other kind of positions that we currently don't have anyone. And that would be a massive investment to ultimately making a game. And in reality, there's already many games that are getting published. So for us at the moment, with the budget we have, it makes more sense to collaborate with those games and those game developers who are already shipping games, and seeing how we can help them and use it kind of like a good relationship in terms of this game has 1 million of players, how we can improve that, what are the things that they have seen that was preventing them to make a game. And if we were to take that focus away and then make a project, we would need to create something, be working on it, and then kind of laser focus on those improvements, which might not be what the community at large needs. I think we need to make new demos. That's something that has to happen. We have been using the third person demo for a long time. The 2D demos, now that I showed, like the 2016 Godot 2 release had one of the demos that, the platformer demo. So I think it would be nice to do demos, but not actual full games. And the things you can improve when you're making a full game are things that would require us to invest a couple of years of development in a specialized team working on that to then get some returns. So I think it would be great, but it's just, we need a lot of funds to do that. Which, you can donate to for us to eventually be able to do that. But yeah, I hope that answered your question. Let's see where I left off. Okay. Are there any recommendations for a different quality settings? Only way I know is manual switching materials with lower textures and settings. Well, it depends on the style that you want to achieve. I can say, let me look. there was a very good tutorial about making some sort of like stylized scene and the things that go over it. Um, um, I'm searching now. If I find it, I will share it. Um, mm, what was the name? Here. I think you can follow a tutorial like this one. I'm gonna link it on the description. Oh, what happened? Okay, here, which goes over everything that you need to do kind of to get to a scene that looks quite pretty. Um, let's see, I think at the beginning he shows the scene. Um, so it's kind of hard to say like which are the different quality settings because like you can actually do a lot. Let's see the final finish scene. You can do a lot of things differently depending on the style you want to. This, for instance, looks more like an Overwatch level would look like. And if that's what you are going for, then this is a good set of settings that Pixter covers on his video. But if you're going for some other style, that might not apply there. So yeah, it really depends on the style that you're looking for. Okay. Mm, is it is Godot tomorrow because of Blender today? Yes, yes, it was just a play on the words. Also we do have the, the streams on Wednesdays and Blender today is on Tuesdays. So yeah, also we do have this running joke, which is where one of the origins of the name of Godot. That's always, we're waiting for Godot, and Godot might come tomorrow. So it was a combination of all those factors that made the name of the show. Yo, is the new Ultimate Introduction to Godot by Clear Code good enough for a newbie? I don't know. I really don't know. I haven't seen it, and it's harder and harder for me now to give some judgment on those because since I'm not a beginner anymore, I don't know exactly what would work. I've heard many good things about, for instance, the GD script from zero by GD Quest, which is something you can try. It's an interactive demo. But myself, I didn't learn to program or to make games with Godot, so I really don't know. If you like it and it's working for you, then yes. So I would give it a try. Like you don't lose anything by trying. Okay, another question. See that they're piling up. Okay. Does Godot have an interest in spreading further into the simulation engine space, transportation, aerospatial, etc.? That's a very interesting question by Sebastian Pautot. So there isn't any interest per se in our end. We know that there's people that are using it for things like that, especially for industry. I've seen people using it for simulations of gear, of mechanical things. There was actually in the Tokyo meetup that happened that I attended this year, I believe. I don't know, maybe it was, yeah, I think it was this year. Time flies by. There was a company who built basically like a crane that you could move stuff around, and so they built all the hardware so you can move it and use it as a simulation, and they built all that in Godot. So as a representation of how the system would work in real life, they did that. So I know that there's people using it for this. There's other projects that unfortunately are private or secret that we cannot really talk about, but in different industries like medical industries and stuff like that, which I know that it's being used. But our main goal is for Godot to be for making games. So we haven't actually prioritized any feature that would be specific for simulation, engineering, space, or stuff like that. But I think that's kind of like a side effect of 3D software for making games real time can apply to many other areas. Okay, so we have this question: what is the state of traits? Which is maybe too long, and maybe that's something that I've heard people asking that we should do like a GDScript stream, and we could do that. But I can say that at the moment, the GDScript team is still deciding, or they need to discuss what's going to happen with this. I know that people are actively discussing it. It wasn't just in time to make it on 4.6. So we will see for 4.7. And we are still not sure, at least myself, if this will be the implementation that it will take. As far as I'm aware, many people want to use traits in a way that this PR doesn't actually support that way of using traits. So I feel like many people have taken the title of the PR and they have imagined how that feature would look like. So we need to make sure that most people will actually get the feature that they want, and not maybe once we say we added traits, then you go to try it out and it's not what you were expecting, or it's just not specific for your use case, something like that. So I know there's a lot more to be discussed, and even if it seemed like the PR was very close to being merged, there's still things that need to be resolved. So I really don't know when that will happen. It's sad, but that's how we are currently um, yeah, discussing about this. And yeah, I see the next question: is it possible to get some rough expectations for when we can expect GDScript improvements, problem methods, structs, and traits? And yeah, like those are all things that we want to improve, because it's the most requested features that the community have, at least on the proposals repository. And the main issue that the GDScript team has is that the complexity is already too high, and adding more and more features is making the complexity higher and higher. And this could come at a cost of making GDScript less easy to use for people, making GDScript less performant, making GDScript less general purpose. And it's a trade-off that we don't want to take very lightly. And ideally, if you really need these sort of features, and if we are able to improve the third parties languages support, you would be able to use different languages whenever you need something very specific, or if your team is bigger and they prefer to use something like C# because of the inbuilt features that they already have. So I think that for Godot 4, that's that's gonna be the best solution, because many of the times when we're discussing, or when I hear this discussion, like I don't take part in the GDScript meetings, but when I hear about the discussions that they're having, the biggest problem is that for making many of these issues, we would need to break compatibility. So it's something that can be done for Godot 5, because that it will create that expectation of, okay, it's a different system, it's mostly the same, but we can start from scratch and we can actually make these changes in the GDScript itself. And if we were to do those changes today, we would break many projects. We would make the life of many developers really hard for a few features that realistically they don't prevent you from shipping a game. Because even if we don't have those features today, there's many games that come out, they are very successful, they have a lot of players, developers make a lot of money, everybody's happy. So we don't feel really like GDScript is holding people back, but we know that there's a lot of people that still want those features, so we need to do it in the proper way. I hope that answers the question for the traits and the other GDScript things. Will there be something like a typewriter system for Godot? Because that would be amazing. Any typewriter effect that has something to pause in mid text and so on. I think you can already do that. There's on the text labels, or like the text areas and stuff like that, you can select the amount of characters that are displayed. So you basically can add one character at a time. And while you're doing that, you can add audio, you can add pauses. If you want to see how that's done in any dialogue system, you will see it in Dialogic. You probably can see it in Dialog Manager, and you can take that code and use it for yourself, or code it yourself. It's not that complicated. So yeah, that's already kind of there, if that's what you meant. But yeah. Lack of interfaces and namespaces make it hard to use external libraries and scale. A few extensions broke after Godot has built its own logger class. Yes, and I felt that pain myself while doing Dialogic. If you use kind of like a class called Dialog, and then you have others, and we expect that to be an issue for the asset store. Like if the asset store goes well and more people use it, there's gonna be a lot of people installing plugins that they might clash among themselves, and that's of course a problem that we need to fix. Uh, but the fix needs to come in a way that we can actually keep supporting Godot in the long term, and not something that would be detrimental for the entire experience. So yeah, I'm not saying that it's not gonna happen, but we need to do it right. And at the moment, we don't have any full-time GDScript maintainer at the foundation. There's many people interested, and there's been some movement in that area, but it's a position that we need to fill soon. And as always, want to remind you that you can donate, and you can make it easier for us to keep hiring more people to the team. And yeah, it would be nice to have a full-time GDScript maintainer that can work on all of this. But yeah. So Godot 5 is just going to bake all code from all languages down to machine code assembly at runtime. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah, no, but I think the more the time passes, the more there's an opportunity for Godot 5 to be different than what Godot 4 is. And in these sort of cases, I think it makes sense if we were to, let's say that for fixing the GDScript issues we have right now, we need to rewrite GDScript entirely. You cannot really make sure that if we do a big rewrite like that, projects that are Godot 4 are gonna still work in Godot 5. But it's okay, because the expectation of a user is like, this is a new version of the engine. I need to make some changes. We already seen that transition from Godot 3 to Godot 4, so you would see that from Godot 4 to Godot 5. But doing that in the 4.7 or 4.8 or 4.9, it's more tricky. Okay. Question: has there been any plans for an input recording playback feature? Not really, but that doesn't seem like something that would be too hard to code. Out of the top of my head, I would just make an auto load that records all the inputs, and then a playback that just goes over all those inputs and sends those signals. I think that should be pretty doable. I don't know how we can make something that's more specialized than that, unless I'm missing some sort of thing. Then I see a question in Italian, which unfortunately, like, my last name is Italian, but I don't know Italian myself. I know Spanish, but yeah, I don't know exactly what you're asking. But yeah, if you can ask in English, I might be able to help. Let's see. We're getting close to the end. Like, just final questions, and then we log off. So when are we expecting Godot 5 with a brand new perfect GDScript? Tomorrow, I guess. Yeah, tomorrow you will get Godot 5. Now, like, I hope we don't have to, right? Like, it's really traumatic for the community to go from one version to another. We've seen this sort of big changes happen in many other technological things, like, let's say, Python 2 to Python 3, and there's always a lot of things that are really, really hard to get there. But whenever there's enough arguments whenever there's enough support and there isn't any way for us to address those in Godot 4, that's when the conversation will happen. I hope that's maybe, I don't know, 2-3 years in the future. Yeah, maybe with GD extensions, we're able to ship a new version of GD script that works different. Maybe with GD extensions, we can, start reworking some of the parts of the engine and not have to make the old ones outdated. But it's all speculation, and I'm just here imagining things. C# web exports for 4.6 or 4.7. So I wish that we had those already, probably 4.7, but there isn't any indication that those will come soon. There is a lot of progress, as I mentioned before, on the GD extension implementation of C#. And after that's already done, we're going to move to the web exports. So hopefully 4.7, but you will never know. Have you seen what they are doing with Baking Bad yet? No, I don't know what Baking Bad is. Yeah. Will Godot allow manipulating objects in game using gizmos in the future? Yes. I think you mean that you see like the same things you see on the editor when you're playing the game. Yes, I think that's something that people has been working on. But it's probably coming eventually. If in case you don't know, you can already move stuff in the game while it's running. But yeah, I've seen like a video, I think, that was covering all this, right? And I think eventually it will come. Question: why did you not use Python and create a GD script? Okay, so that's a very good question. So the main reason, like how Python works, and I wasn't there I wasn't working in Godot when this decision got made. So this is my take on why this happened. Before they were using Lua, I believe, which is very easy to embed and very easy to use as a scripting language. And the thing is always how well integrated is the language with your engine. And Python is not as easy to integrate with a game engine. Also has a lot of things like garbage collection and things like that, which are really tricky to get right for games. And I did some experiments before going actually to contribute to it using Pygame. And I don't know if you tried it, but it's really bad. Like when you're working on it, you're basically like every line of code that you're doing, you need to specify like who's gonna be like whose variable you're affecting. So you end up having like instead of having, let's say, like a position input or whatever, you have to self dot variable name, self dot variable name, self dot variable name, and you have like just a million words for describing something that in Godot you just start typing GDScript and it works, and you know the context of what you're working on in the node, and you know what you're referencing. I think it's very ergonomic, and the fact that the language is being developed with the engine makes it so that the decisions of that language are specific for making games, specific for making the game making process easier. And Python don't have that. They don't have that ethos in mind. Python needs to be for science. Python needs to be for web development. Python needs to be for desktop application. Python needs to be too many things. So the decisions that they're gonna take are gonna be for those purposes. The decisions that we can make with GDScript are specific for making games in Godot. So yeah, the trade-offs that you have here is basically having a very specialized language. It has a lot of advantages that Python cannot, provide. And this is completely unrelated. There might be a way, but have you ever tried to send somebody else a Python application? Because I had, and it's not fun. It's never fun. So I will leave it there. I use Python a lot. I really like it, especially for web. The foundation, all the platforms that we have on the backend, like the asset store and all that, we use Python. But yeah, for some things, it's yeah, interesting. Okay, I'm gonna take the last question. I'm gonna try to be quick and let's see. Um, are there any plans for HTML5 improvements for 4.6 that you're about to go into feature freeze? So yes, there are plans. They will probably not make it into 4.6, but there are many improvements for loading web games faster, especially for platforms like Poki or Crazy Games or itch.io. We want to make that better. Is Sleep Godot framework is already usable? It is. Might not be exactly for your use case, but yeah, it is. You can use it already. Breaking Bad is a really great game project from what I've seen. Entirely made in Godot. They're saying it's the biggest project ever made in Godot. They say. Well, if it's the biggest project made in Godot, I didn't hear about it. So yeah, I will check it out. How good is the current Godot 3D compared to Unity? Well, you can check on the stream that we had Clay, the rendering lead, talking about this. There's a question about it, comparing to Unreal and stuff like that, but it should be there. Okay, I think that's all I have for today. Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for being there. As I said, I will try to stream next week. If I can't, I don't know exactly when I will be back. But it was great to get all your questions. And please, oh, sorry, wrong link. Please remember to donate to Godot if you can, and see you there. Please ask on the forums anywhere. I will be happy to read your questions. Now I will press the correct button and end it. Bye.